In the headlines, the USA joined the Ethiopian government in accusing the TPLF fighters of snatching aid. The renowned historian and writer Jeff Pierce said the US government is trying to remove Abiy's administration. Hello and welcome to Addis News Hour. I'm Daniel Kasahun with the news. The Speaker of the Ethiopian House of People's Representatives, Taggese Chafo, announced finalization of preparation to form the new Ethiopian government on October 4, 2021. Taggese said a wide range of reform activities have been undertaken to enhance House's capacity in becoming a strong representative of the public and addressing challenges in all sectors. He further expressed strong optimism that Ethiopia is in a position to overcome the challenges it is facing and achieve its development goals through public participation. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has held telephone conversation with Ethiopian President Ismail Omar Guelleh on bilateral issues of mutual interest. The two leaders discussed ways to enhancing historical relationship between Ethiopia and Djibouti. Prime Minister Abiy and President Ismail Omar Guelleh also exchanged views on how to boost bilateral and regional cooperation on issues of mutual significance. Almost all humanitarian organizations operating in Ethiopia turned a deaf ear to government's concern that the TPLF fighters have been stealing aid which is supposed to be delivered to civilian victims. Now, the USA joins the Ethiopian government in accusing the TPLF fighters snatching aid. USA Mission Director to Ethiopia, St. John's, has said that TPLF looted warehouses, cars, and destroyed properties, particularly in the state of Amara, where the clique made incursions. Salmon Dai reports.
No history of humanitarian assistance here in Ethiopia has USAID ever provided any kind of food or drugs or any other kind of assistance to TPLF or to armed groups in Ethiopia.
So if USA did not allow them to access aid, so how could the TPLF fighters get your aid?
In conflict zones, I think there are probably three ways that armed groups and soldiers might get access to humanitarian supplies. First, number one, is that often food is sold to soldiers. Another way is that, of course, we know that some citizens are sympathetic to, in this case, the TPLF, and maybe they gave their food to the soldiers. And then, of course, third is, I think, the worst thing that could happen is when soldiers and armed groups come in and they steal that food or non-food from citizens.
So do you believe that the TPLF fighters have been stealing aid from your organization?
I do believe that TPLF has been very opportunistic. Maybe they're stealing from citizens. We don't have proof of this, of course. What we do have proof of is that several of our warehouses have been looted and completely emptied in the areas, particularly Amhara, where the TPLF soldiers have gone into. Yes, we know that that's a fact. In Amhara now, we now know that the TPLF has, every town that they've gone into, they've looted the warehouses, they've looted trucks, they have caused a great deal of destruction in all the villages they've visited, and it's a great concern for humanitarians.
The government has been voicing concern that the TPLF fighters have been stealing aid, which was supposed to be delivered to civilians, and no organization, including USAID, did say anything back then. So, and now you're telling me that the TPLF fighters might involve in stealing aid. Why didn't you say anything back then?
It's not that we have disagreed in the past. It's just that the United States doesn't make comments. First of all, we don't make comments about everything. Second of all, we don't make comments based on rumor and accusations. We make comments and we call out misdeeds when we know that when we have facts that support what we want to say. And in this case, we are very confident that in recent weeks, we have seen TPLF soldiers emptying some of the warehouses.
Do you agree with the notion that the relationship between Ethiopia and the US is deteriorating?
I hate to use that word. I think there's some strain or there's some stress in our relationship right now. It's really important, I think, for the United States as a partner of Ethiopia, and we are a committed, passionate partner about our relationship with the Ethiopian people. As a partner, sometimes we have to raise our voice. Sometimes, like in a good marriage, sometimes we have to say what we're feeling at that moment. We have to provide our advice because maybe we've been through this already, and maybe we see decisions that are being made in our partner, and in Ethiopia in this case, that might not be, we think, might not be in Ethiopia's best interest. And so maybe if people look at it as a deterioration of the relationship, frankly, it's a very honest conversation. I will tell you, my relationships with senior Ethiopian government officials has maybe never been better. I have honest, clear communications with my colleagues in the Ethiopian government every single day.
The United States of America, not ashamed of its debacle in Afghanistan, is now looking for another prey in Africa. This is why they are trying to remove the promising Abiy administration rather than cooperating with it. The renowned historian, journalist, and writer Jeff Pierce made these remarks, who also narrated the horrific incident committed by TPLF in Maikadra. Shfarola Gazmar.
It's been a while since Ethiopia has found itself grappling with misinformation and disinformation. This usually comes from unsubstantiated information about the East African nation without personally witnessing what is going on in the country. Prolific writer, journalist, and historian Jeff Pierce has been visiting Ethiopia, traveling to different parts of the East African nation and witnessing what exactly is going on in the country. In an exclusive interview with ETV, he has shared the horrific incidents in Maikadra.
We got the chance to interview those victims. And in a video which I've uploaded to my channel, you can see a parade, a pan of these victims, some pointing to scars where sharp weapons or like axes and blades have struck their heads. Talking to women who, there's a poignant, horrible story of a woman who talks about how a husband is on a roof, and because they think the TPLF are going for the kid, the guy jumps down, he dies. She's lost her husband. The only reason why they didn't kill the kid was, according to the woman, if I remember the version properly, she said, "Oh, we're going to come back tomorrow. We'll take care of the kids tomorrow." We visited by a house where a man was burned alive. The wreckage is still there. The shambles, the burned out, sort of charred remains of it. We visited a graveyard where they used a bulldozer to move about 300 bodies. There are 50 to 60 bodies in one spot alone sometimes. The bulldozer is still there. They used mattresses to carry the corpses. Mattresses are all lined up against sort of a perimeter wall, I guess as some kind of silent tribute to those victims. These things need to be seen. They need to be spoken of. They need to be discussed, and they sure as hell need to get communicated to the Western media and diplomatic community.
Talking about the United States of America, he says the U.S. has clearly lost in Afghanistan. The irony, however, is it is seeking another prey in Africa.
Well, of course, people are seizing on that example in relation to TPLF and Ethiopia because Afghanistan was a 20-year debacle in which you went in and what was it all for? Now, there are practical people, I know a couple who say, well, what was the U.S. supposed to do? Stick around for another 20 years? And I can appreciate that. But the thing is that you totally betrayed these people. you just said, okay, we're leaving by X date, off we go. And so you have a reenactment of the fall of Saigon in Kabul, where people are pleading and waving their passports around and have their children and going, hey, get us out of here. And we've seen scenes that we haven't seen since the 1970s. And it's embarrassing, it's shameful, it's appalling. Now the problem is that now they're seeking to bully somebody else for a foreign relations win. Guess who? So now they're going to say, well, we got to win somewhere. Who can we pick on? Hi, you're over here. This is what they're trying to do. And
Jeff also says he has information that the U.S. is seeking to put an end to the Abiy administration as part of their scheme.
Yes, I know they are. I have some information that, yes, they want the devil they know. Look, Susan Rice cannot come back to this country. She just can't. She's not welcome here. They're not going to roll out a welcome, carpet for her anytime soon. Because why? We know why. Several of their administration either know or are overly chummy with the TPLF, and they want the devil they know. What's a more interesting question is why they can't get behind the new administration and get behind what is being planned.
He also says diplomats from the USA come to Ethiopia with their visit not going beyond Addis Ababa, and they don't care about what is going on in the wider nation.
Welcome back. You are watching at this news hour. Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson Dina Mufti expressed Ethiopia's keenness for any cooperation that helps address challenges facing the country. Talking to ETV, Dina said Ethiopia welcomes any sort of discussion with the United States and other countries and expose the facts on the ground. Jerusalem Bazaar reports.
The Italian invasions in 1895 and 1935 forced Ethiopia into greater contact with world politics. After World War II, this tie strengthened and Ethiopia has played an active role in world and African affairs. Since then, Ethiopia has been working to expand its diplomatic ties and attracting strategic partners from around the world. However, currently, Ethiopia's diplomacy with Western countries has taken a precarious turn. United States and some Western countries have been continuing blaming Ethiopia for the humanitarian situation, denying the fact, and that interference and pressure on Ethiopia's internal matter. Unfortunately, some Western countries like the US have been trying to force Ethiopia to negotiate with the terrorist TPLF. Ethiopian Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson Ambassador Dina Mufti said Ethiopia and US have been working a lot in fighting terrorism in the African region. He thus suggested to continue their cooperation in this regard.
We have a deep historic and long-standing relationship with the Western countries in general, and the US in particular. We have been doing a lot of good things also in the region. Like, for example, we have been confronting terrorism in the Horn of Africa together with the Americans. And we have huge Ethiopian community, Ethiopians residing in the US. So people-to-people's relationship is also very huge. Definitely, we hope our relationship will be restored to its previous level, even it will be elevated to the higher level. This is what we wish. This is what we are working on. Same thing is true. This all is true for other Western countries as well.
On August 26, on the UN Security Council meeting on Ethiopia and the situation in Tigray, Russia, China, India and Kenya have shown their solidarity and opted to stand by the East African nation Ethiopia. The ambassador appreciated those countries' firm stance for the fact Ethiopia will continue its effort to clarify the issues for others too.
We thank them for that. As they say, the friend indeed is a friend in need, because they have stood by our side. We thank others also who have somehow supported us in one way or another, and this shows Ethiopia's commitment to and loyalty to friendship with other countries. We urge others also who didn't understand our case to take the lead from them and follow their path if possible, and we hope also they will understand us sooner or later. It's a matter of time. Normally friends can misunderstand each other at times. At times there could be arguments among friends. At times there could be hiccups, but at the end of the day friends can understand and can go together. So in our case as well, others also who perhaps didn't understand our issue as we wish will understand it very soon. And, but we respect them, we cherish them, we appreciate the relationship we have with them.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed made a visit to Turkey on August 17 to uplifting the ties between Ethiopia and Turkey to a new height. The Premier also visited Uganda and Rwanda for a similar purpose at the weekend. These recent official visits to different countries were part of the government's consolidative effort on the diplomatic sector, the ambassador said.
The recent tour of His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, to Turkey, as well as his very recent tour to Uganda and Rwanda, have the purpose of further strengthening the relationship with these friendly countries. And the leaders, our leader with all these leaders of these three countries, have held discussions on current regional issues of paramount importance to our interests. They have discussed also about strengthening relationship between Ethiopia and these countries. They have discussed also about overcoming some hurdles in the region if there are some.
Currently, Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been under reform to make the institution as effective and digitalize its diplomacy across the world.
The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, has delivered humanitarian aid worth 30 million birr to the internally displaced persons in Debark town of the Amhara region. UNICEF Ethiopia representative Adel Koder visited IDPs in Debark town, which is home to 41,000 displaced persons. Kasaun Chan has the details.
UNICEF Ethiopia representative Adel Koder visited IDPs in Debark in the Amhara region. UNICEF Ethiopia director Adel Koder said she had visited North Gondar and Irsin and announced many children were facing food insecurity.
I think I have been aware of what's happening, but it's always very different when you see than when you hear the news. And this is why I really wanted to come and see for myself. And the day before yesterday in Gondar, when we arrived on Sunday, we also met with Dr. Negash, who is the State Minister of Water, and with the head of the Regional Water Bureau. And he had visited also the park, and he talked to us a little bit about what we will see. Yeah, I think I was quite shocked, I would say, at the number of children and women, because most of the IDPs are only children and women. We didn't find a lot of men with them. And you know, when children or women are on their own, and there are also a number of separated children. We met 3 young girls, 2 were sisters, and there was one who was probably their neighbor. And they were alone without their parents. And you can imagine what can happen for 3 young girls when they are alone. Even getting food will be challenging for them. And there were a lot of cases of malnutrition that we could clearly see among mothers and their children. And I am sure that the situation is equally bad also on the side of North Wollo and Desi. We have a team that is doing an assessment on the other side.
UNICEF donates more than 30 million birr worth of air items to those affected by the TPLF invasion.
And we are really very happy that we were able at least to contribute. I think we have been here since the beginning, working with all the regional bureaus. And we are happy that we were able to contribute a little bit to the suffering, to alleviate the suffering of these people, you know, through the supplies that we gave in terms of high energy biscuits and wash supplies, as well as the RUTF and the essential drug kits. And also water tracking that we are doing probably in Desi more than in this region yet. And we will be looking at what we could do more. So I think the visit was important to really mobilize the resources as well, even within UNICEF. And I already communicated last night with my regional director and also with the director of emergency that you had met before, Manuel. And I told him as well about what we were told by the Health Bureau about the destruction of the health facilities. And we were saying also that we should not underestimate the importance of the destruction of the wash facilities, because without water also there is no health. So this is really critical. And one more point that I would really like maybe for us to talk about a little bit is what can we do regarding the schools, because I am seeing that all the IDPs, and this is across Ethiopia, they are sitting in schools.
Chief of the Amhara Region State Agenyo Tashagar thanked UNICEF for air support to the region and called on other humanitarian organizations to continue to support the organization.
አሁን ውጊያ በተካሄደባቸው የአማራ ክልል የወያኔ የትህነግ ወራሪ ኃይል
Due to the invasion by the terrorist PLF, many people have been killed and others have been faced with material and psychological problems. In all areas the PLF stepped on, there have been looting and destructions of infrastructures. Thus there is a strong need for international humanitarian organizations to make their support to those in need. International organizations and humanitarian agencies must hold an unbiased view of the situation in Ethiopia during war times. It's acceptable for one to stand with the voiceless and the disadvantages, whereas a selective response is groundless, that it should be corrected.
The president acknowledged the support donated by UNICEF, and he confirmed that the aid will be used for students' educational materials among other necessities. During her visit, the UNICEF representative handed over various much-needed supplies like mattresses, high-energy biscuits and water, sanitation and hygiene to the IDPs, including textbooks and pens, among other things for students.
US-based journalist who specializes in the Horn of Africa says that spending on the war effort has really negatively impacted Ethiopia's capacity to access dollars. According to BBC's report, Ethiopia's 10 months conflict come at a huge human cost, with thousands killed, millions displaced, and many in desperate need of assistance. Sayut Amrat tells us more.
Ethiopia was on a law enforcement operation in Tigray region for 8 months. Although the federal government announced a truce in June and withdrew its forces from the Tigray region, the TPLF rejected it and continued escalating its attacks into the neighboring Amhara and Afar regions. Ethiopia's 10 months war has come at a huge human cost, with thousands killed, millions displaced, and many in desperate need of assistance, BBC reported. But that's not the only damage being done to Africa's most populous nation. The war has incurred a huge economic cost too that could take years to repair. This, coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic, started affecting citizens' living conditions. Residents of Addis Ababa approached by BBC say their expense has doubled. A supermarket worker told BBC that before COVID-19 and the conflict in Tigray, she would pay 1,000 birr each month for groceries. But now she spends 2,000 birr. Things are more expensive now: phones, food and clothes. Official statistics show the cost of basic consumer goods has indeed gone up in Ethiopia. They were on average around a quarter more expensive in July than a year earlier. Residents in Addis also mentioned the dollar exchange has not been good. Last year, for $1, one could get 35 birr. Now it's 45. Faisal Robel, a US-based analyst who specializes in the Horn of Africa, says spending on the war effort has really negatively impacted Ethiopia's capacity to access dollars and has caused the exchange rate to deteriorate. It's not clear how much the war has cost the country, but trading economics forecasts military expenditure will reach $502 million by the end of the year. Last week, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the conflict had drained over $1 billion from the country's coffers. Prior to the global pandemic and the war, Ethiopia's economy was one of the fastest growing in the region, expanding by an average of 10% a year in the decade to 2019, according to the World Bank. The birr has fallen even further in the informal market than the official rate available in banks. Business owners in the country are nervous about the worsening security situation as the war spreads beyond Tigray and into the neighboring regions of Afar and Amhara. Many are draining their accounts and taking their cash to many traders on the border with the self-declared Republic of Somaliland, and that's forcing the birr's value to drop even lower. The civil war started when the party in power, TPLF, attacked federal military bases in November amidst an escalating feud with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed over the dissolution of the ruling coalition and the postponement of elections. Since then, Ethiopia's military, as well as its Eritrean allies, state police forces, and local militias, have fought a bloody war against Tigrayan fighters. Both sides have been accused of committing atrocities, including rape and mass civilian killings, BBC reported. Tigray has been without basic services, including telecommunications and banks. The war has led to the destruction of many schools and health centers in Tigray. More than 400,000 people in Tigray are already living in famine-like conditions, while aid distribution has been stifled and electricity and fuel supplies are dwindling, pushing prices up, added the report. Internationally, the war is having a huge impact on Ethiopia's reputation as a place to invest, says economist Irmgard Erasmus from the NKC African Economics Consultancy Group. Erasmus points to the recent liberalization of Ethiopia's telecom sector, which originally attracted interest from a number of providers, including South African telecoms giant MTN. In the end, though, only one company successfully bid for either of the two telecoms licenses, a consortium led by Kenya's Safaricom, which pledged $850 million. Ethiopia's overall economic growth for this year is forecast to slow significantly from 6% in 2020 to just 2% in 2021, the lowest level in almost 2 decades, according to the International Monetary Fund. The country imports about $40 billion of goods per year, while it exports just $3.4 billion. Also worrying economic observers is Ethiopia's national debt, which some expect to reach $60 billion this year, or nearly 70% of GDP. While the US has imposed some visa restrictions on Ethiopians involved in the war and withheld some spending so far, the international community has been reluctant to exert maximum economic pressure on the government or cut generous aid programs. Around a quarter of the population of Ethiopia live below the national poverty line, and the average yearly income is just $850 per person.
It's very humbling, considering we've learned a lot about Ethiopian history since I was in school. So for me, coming to Ethiopia as a maiden trip, it's been great, and I can attest to the fact that it's a very beautiful country, very beautiful people, and very warm people.
Well, number one is Ethiopians are very courteous, very friendly, hospitable. And then I'm actually shocked. I didn't expect Addis to be this beautiful. This place we are in right now is out of this world. It's the most serene place I've ever been to. It's like you're standing on top of the world.
One of the things we're learning from Ethiopia is a tourist attraction, just like what we have back in Kenya. Secondly, the hospitality that Ethiopians have, the love that you have for people, for your neighbors.
Welcome back. You are watching Addis News Hour. And finally, despite the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, thousands of visitors still flock to Africa to visit its spectacular national parks. Many of the parks serve the famous Big Five Alliance: elephants, leopards, buffaloes, and rhinos. Haftama Shagre takes up CGTS 5.
This is Queen Elizabeth National Park, covering 1,978 square kilometers. It is Uganda's second largest national park. It's reaching a wildlife forests and savanna vegetation. You can also find the big five animals that draw tourists from all over the world. It's the lions that are the biggest attraction. Mikey, the territorial male here, visits watch him in all.
First time that I've seen any wildlife like this, so it's It's very important because this is the first time that I see anything.
The park had closed its doors to tourists for many months in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic and thought affected operations, but the easing of travel restrictions now has been the number of visitors gradually improve. The tree climbing lions are the ultimate thrill for the visitors from the branches. They have a clear view of their prey, but it's not only the lions that love the trees, the leopards do too. Sporting one is a rarity. We were, however, lucky to catch this one.
Tourism is one good thing. Every day is a new encounter. Every day is a new day. Every day is a surprise.
The park offered another surprise. This couple from Argentina touring on a motorbike. Chavez says he has traveled like this for over 50 years.
You have to be very careful with the animals, even the small one, but the most dangerous is the elephant because that's 6 tons, can do whatever they want even with the car. Think about the bike.
Apart from the unique animal attractions, a ride on the freshwater body within the park is equally a worthwhile adventure. It takes 2 hours to cross through this long natural channel. The channel is also known as a building paradise that makes it a must-visit destination for birds. Birds can be seen here throughout the year, but the collection gets bigger when the migratory birds fly over during Europe's winter season.
The season when the migrants have reached here, people are interested in what we call the Hughlin gulls. People are interested in the species like white-winged black terns. People are interested in the species like the crested cranes, which are the national birds. At the same time, people are interested in species like the saddle-billed stork. And interestingly enough, on some rare days, because we have got big swamps left and right of the channel, we, by luck, sight at shorebells.
The tourists, the Queen Elizabeth National Park offers a real feel of the wilderness and truly remains Western Uganda.
Let's remind you the headlines. The USA joined the Ethiopian government in accusing the TPLF fighters of snatching aid. And the renowned historian and writer J. Pierce said the United States government is trying to remove Abiy's administration. That's all for this edition. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and stay safe.